Here we go. This is Jocko Underground podcast number 95. Sitting here with Echo Charles, who is contemplating starting to impose extreme ownership on me, possibly.
In life.
But in life, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, here we go. How do you mentally prepare for a stressful event? I don't get stressed out about too much, but I know people that get stressed out about stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to think of how, what when I was doing stressful things in my life, when I had to do something stressful, what did I do? What did I go through to mitigate that stress as much as possible? And there was some things that I thought might help people out. Number one, practice. Practice what it is you have to do. Practice that thing. Rehearse that thing. Even in the SEAL teams, man, we rehearse our actions at the objective to make sure we know what's going to happen. And you can do it if you rehearse correctly. You can mitigate so many problems. And if you don't rehearse, everything can fall apart. Yeah. It's funny how much walking through something one time improves your capability at that one thing. Yeah. It's amazing. If you and I had to go and clear a house and we got to walk through that house clearance, we'd be 10 times better. Yeah. If you and I had to dismount a vehicle, get through a street, move down a street and enter a building, and we rehearsed that one time, we'd be 10 times better than if we didn't rehearse it. So anything that you can do that you have to do that's going to bring you stress, you should rehearse it. Let it turn into muscle memory. Then take a break from it and then go back and rehearse it again. You need a little breather. You need to give your mind, I'm sure there's some physiological thing that's going on, some psychological thing that's going on, but you rehearse something, you practice it, and you take a break from it, then you go back and rehearse and practice it again. And you do that as many times as you can. Look, don't get crazy with it, because sometimes if you rehearse something too much, now when the unexpected happens, it throws you off and you're a disaster. So you got to be careful of that. But rehearse, practice. The physical, like actually do it, and then also mentally visualize what you're going to do. Like, this is what I'm going to say. This is what they're going to say back. Okay, this is what's going on. If you're stressed out about a conversation you got to go have with your boss, or with one of your subordinates, or one of your peers, or your spouse, stressed out about something, you got to go give a public speaking event thing. It's causing you anxiety. It's causing you stress. Rehearse it. Practice it. Take a break. Rehearse it. Practice it again. So that's number one. The more prepared you are for something, the less stress you have about that thing. Another idea around this is review in your mind the worst case scenario outcomes. Like, what is the worst thing that is going to happen? What is the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? And then how am I going to deal with that? And how bad are they really? Because sometimes we are more scared of the idea of that bad thing. When we actually think about what that bad thing is, not that big of a deal. Put them in perspective, right? You're not going to die. And if you're going into some situation where you might die, okay, well, you might die. Well, okay. Can you accept that? Tim Ferriss has a thing, he calls it fear setting. I want to say he made it up. I'm pretty sure he made it up. Cool term. I like it. What he talks about, when he talks about fear setting, he talks about it in reference to big, kind of grand goals. So like, I want to move to Kentucky. But that's like a big step for me because I've never been out of my state and I don't really know. So you do this fear setting thing where you figure out what's the worst thing that could happen, and you go through that, and it's a way for you to come to terms with the worst case scenarios that could happen. Like I said, when I've heard him talk about it, he's talked about it in reference to bigger, broader goals, not really for like single events or missions or like a match that you're going to play or a game that you've got to play. But So some of the ideas that he talks about around fear setting, they're a little bit different when you take them to a smaller tactical situation that's causing you stress. Like, one of them that you got to watch out for is when he'll talk about, like, okay, I'm going to move to Kentucky. Here's the worst case that can happen. Here's some things I can mitigate. Here's some things I can implement to mitigate this problem occurring. I could end up homeless. Okay, we'll put some savings away, and you can get a one-way ticket that's going to bring you back home if you need it. Like, there's some things you could do. You're not going to end up homeless. Okay, you solved that problem. It's a little bit harder when it's one stressful event, like you got a wrestling match, because most of the risk mitigation of losing a wrestling match is done prior to. It's the training. It's months and months of training. You can't. Now, listen, can you decide you're going to avoid a certain position in wrestling? Can you decide, can you work on one little escape that's going to help you with this guy's power move? You can do that. But essentially what Tim Ferriss is doing in this fear setting thing is getting comfortable with the worst case scenarios. It's going to be okay. Sometimes I think about how funny it'll be if one of these worst case scenarios happen. Like, it's going to be funny. Like, I'm going to look dumb and it's going to be funny. You know what I mean? And look at you. You're laughing. It removes a little bit of stress. And they will be a little bit funny. If you do something, if you make that big dreaded mistake in front of everyone, it's going to be kind of funny. And if you can laugh at yourself,
Sure. Yeah.
and you're okay with that,
Yeah.
it's going to make everything a lot less stressful. As opposed to, if I make this mistake, what if I trip? What if I forget part of my speech and I don't know what to say? Mm-hmm. And I say, you know what, I forgot part of my speech, and everyone laughs, then what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But if you're like, dude, if I forget part of my speech, I'm like, hey, I actually forgot what I was going to say. And people are going to laugh, and I'm going to laugh too. Mm-hmm. So get comfortable with the worst. If you're going into a stressful situation, get comfortable with the worst case scenarios. They're probably not as bad as you think as you're building them up to be. And even if they are, okay, what is the deal with them? Okay, you're going to die. You might die. Cool. What does that actually mean? Mm-hmm. How does that impact the world? How does it impact your world? Probably not as big of a deal as you're making it out to be. Then let go of what you can't control, because there's a bunch of things in a stressful event that you can't have any control over. You don't get it. You don't get to control them. So let them go. Don't think about them. They're a waste. Put them in a category, write them down. Yep, these are things I can't control. I'm not going to worry about them. They're going to happen. Whether they happen or not, doesn't matter. I can't impact it one way or the other. So not going to worry about things I can't control. Then here's what I'm going to do. This one's a little sensitive. I'm going to get just a little bit of and you might have seen this before. Echo Charles, you might have seen this before. I'm going to get a little bit cocky. Get a little bit arrogant. Just a little bit. I'm not going to go too far.
Yeah.
But I'm here for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm in this position for a reason. I've got this match. I'm in the finals for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm kind of kick-ass. I'm pretty good at this. That's why I'm here. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what's going on. So don't let it go too far, but recognize the fact that you are in this position for a reason. There's a reason for that. You've done some good. Mm. You can be a little bit cocky. You're here because you can kind of kick ass at this thing, whatever this thing is. So be a little bit cocky, just a little bit. Mm. This is especially like just prior to the event, right? So you don't want to get cocky 2 weeks away because now you're slacking. You want to get cocky like 4 minutes out.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm about to run game on this fool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's when you want to get cocky. Another thing that happens, you have to deal. That's going to help you with a stressful event. Identify the little physiological reactions that you're going to have as that stress starts kicking in. The heart rate goes up. The breathing gets heavier. You start sweating. Maybe you feel a little nauseous. Maybe the muscles get tense. These are all things that happen. If you say to yourself, "Oh my God, I feel sick. This is terrible. I'm so nervous." That's the wrong attitude to have. If you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm feeling a little nauseous right now," that's the blood leaving my stomach, going to my body and brain so I can function at a higher level. I'm prepared for combat. I'm prepared to die. Let's go. If you know that those things are normal, because they are, when you're going to a stressful environment, those are the things you're going to feel. Your heart rate's going to increase. Your breathing's going to get heavier, or more rapid at least. You're going to start sweating. Maybe you get a little nauseous. Maybe you get a little tense muscles. You look down and you realize and you're gripping your fist, clenching your fist. If you recognize that those things are actually okay, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Those things are good. Those things are you preparing for combat or whatever event that you're going into. So if you do that, go through those little steps, you're going to have a lot easier time dealing with stressful situations. Think through them and then go get some. That's what I got.
Yeah, as a person who probably gets more stressed about certain things, and let's say you, here's a small element to incorporate that does help mentally. So if you think of, it's kind of, it is actually detachment, but while you detach, you think of it in terms of this, where this experience, whatever you're about to go do, is part of a big picture. It's like one of the stepping stones, good or bad, because bad, quote unquote, negative stepping stones are actually good stepping stones. You know how it's like, I don't know, Michael Jordan or whatever, when he
got cut from his sophomore year.
Exactly right. So in the moment, no one ever wants to get cut from the basketball teams at any year, sophomore, junior, senior, whatever, ever. But big picture is kind of like, oh, that's kind of more dope. It's kind of more like it's a deeper story. You see what I'm saying? Than someone who just was good the whole time, you know, or whatever.
Yep. And he probably took away, I got to train harder. I got to practice harder. I got to do more foul shots. Like he got better because he got cut. Maybe he never would have achieved the greatness that he did if he didn't get cut his sophomore year.
Exactly right. So that's like that's part of a bigger picture where it's like this, or a good way to frame it is this is part of the process. All of this stuff. If I go out on, the public speaking, that's a stressful one, right, or whatever. So I'm about to go do my speech. I'm worried and stressed about what if I bomb or whatever, If you look at it as part of the whole process, like this is part of the process. Me being nervous now, because like let's say I do this like 100 more times, I'm gonna be way less nervous, obviously, right? This nervous part is part of this whole process, and we need this part. So embrace this part. So you go out there and you do good, you do bad, whatever. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. But it's still part of that process. Now, if you end it right then and there, where that was your last speech because you bombed, then okay, that's it. That's the end of the process right there. Now you kind of probably in your own mind kind of suck. But if this is a bigger picture, just look at it as part of this one little process, and it helps big time.
There you go. All right. I was gonna say when you and me be rolling, right?
Sure.
Do you ever see me get a little bit cocky?
Yes.
Easy. That's what I thought.
Yes,
I thought you would recognize that.
Before.
Where I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Start talking some shit. And you're doing the same thing. It's kind of just like a fun little banter.
Yeah.
That is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to jockounderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's jockounderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@jockounderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.